How's it going, everybody? Wildman Wes here, and welcome back to another edition of Worst State of Movies. We're leaving Idaho, and we're going to go on a little bit of a Midwest tour. So let's get started. Alright, Illinois, my home state. So there's a lot of movies that have come out from Illinois, especially in the Chicagoland area. And in this movie, it was definitely a childhood favorite of mine, and possibly for all the wrong reasons. Growing up in our adolescence, we tend to do things that are not necessarily for the best. Some things we can get in some severe trouble for. But what happens? What happens when a child is just so undeniably mischievous and evil that we grow to love him just a little bit? Oh, that's right, folks. We're going to be talking about 1990's Problem Child. I was not prepared for this one to be on the list, but then again, maybe my expectations were a little high. So we're going to get into this. This movie is about a young boy named Junior who, from birth, has been a problem, has caused havoc upon hijinks, from foster home to foster home, until he gets back to the orphanage, where the nuns and the director of the orphanage are figuring out a way to con the next couple that comes in to take him off their hands. Well, there happens to be a couple that is easily manipulated in that situation, especially due to the fact that they unfortunately cannot conceive a child of their own. When they find Junior at the orphanage, they decide, well, we don't have to worry about the diapers or anything like that, and they take Junior into their home where he causes so much chaos, and while the wife is just ready to send Junior back to the orphanage, the husband says, why are we not giving him the benefit of the doubt? He's acting out. These things happen. How many times has he been sent away? And eventually, Junior's hijinks not only upsets the wife, it upsets the husband's father, it upsets the entire community. And in the midst of all this, while he was originally in the orphanage, he writes a letter to a man known as the Bow Tie Killer. When our criminal gets the letter from Junior, he automatically assumes that Junior is another inmate somewhere else in the world getting on parole. So he can't handle that, and he breaks out of prison and goes to find Junior. But when he finds Junior, he also seduces the wife, makes the husband just feel like a complete idiot, and eventually they try to send Junior back to the orphanage, and that doesn't work, and the Bowtie Killer kidnaps the wife and Junior and flees. The husband has to go and find them, and he also realizes that out of all the people that Junior has caused chaos to, the husband is the one that Junior actually cares about. The husband finally catches up with the Bowtie Killer after his wife is discarded in a suitcase into the back of a pig truck. He finds Junior and the Bowtie Killer, and he stops the Bowtie Killer, but he does get hit with a stray bullet while the cops are putting the Bowtie Killer into a police car. However, there was a prune inside his pocket the entire time that saved him from a fatal wound. Junior and his now dad live happily ever after until the sequel, where more hijinks will ensue. That's pretty much Problem Child in a nutshell. I wouldn't say this is necessarily a phone-in episode. A lot of it is I've seen this movie so many times that I just wanted to rattle off a 101. Even if I didn't give a lot of specific names to characters in the movie, a lot of it is there might be some people out there that have never seen Problem Child, and you know what? That's not a bad thing. But then again, it's one of those movies, it could be considered it's so bad it's good. The quality of the film, I would say, is, I wouldn't say low budget, but they didn't really put a lot into this movie. I feel a lot of this movie, the budget went to cast members, because the husband and wife are played by John Ritter as well as Amy Asbeck, who at the time, husband and wife before his passing. And then you also have Jack Warden playing the father of John Ritter's character. Then you also have Michael Richards, who was a fairly decent comedian at the time, if my mind serves me right, that was right when he was getting into his role of Kramer from the Seinfeld show, and previously doing the Weird Al comedy movie UHF as Stanley the Janitor. We also have a cameo of some sorts, which made me kind of smile to a degree. We have the late wrestling legend Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado, playing an inmate at the Bowtie Killer's prison. And he's the one who gives Bowtie Killer the letter, and I didn't realize it at first as a kid, and then in retrospect I was like, that's a Von Erich! Holy crap! The hijinks in this movie, yes, though funny as it is at times, it can drone on from time to time, and at the same breath, a lot of the jokes and a lot of the hijinks that happen in this movie have not really aged well. And I'm not saying that in the sense of people being offended by the hijinks that occur. A lot of it is, as I've watched more movies throughout the years, and especially whether the movies came after Problem Child or before Problem Child, it's been done before. And one of the big things that really saves this movie when it comes to the performances with John Ritter and Amy Asbeck doing their comedic timing of the outlandish antics happening in front of them, while also playing deadpan in certain moments where need be, that helps. And I forgot to mention one of the other people in this film, Gilbert Gottfried. He plays the director of the orphanage. I'm sorry that I forgot that part, but I just got into talking about this movie, and how could I forget somebody with a voice such iconically annoying as his? He is definitely missed. I don't care what anybody says. He's always been a great performer, always will be. Oh, man. Seems like so many of them that we grew up with are gone now, isn't it, folks? Out of everything, that's the worst. Alright, let's try to get away from that depressing subject right now, but we've got to do something a little bit possibly more depressing, is grade this film. Now, in the interest of fairness, because this movie for me was a near and dear childhood memory, and I've rewatched it multiple times. Have I rewatched it much after this last rewatch for the series? No, a lot of it is because I have so much going on in my life, and sometimes I forget about these movies. And when I watched it, I did get some of that childhood nostalgia back, remembering all the moments and all the hijinks that happened, even quoting the movie. That's another thing that I need to bring up in this grading. There are movies, it's not just necessarily rewatchability. If you can quote these movies, it's not necessarily the worst movie, because if it's something you remember and it's something that you make a joke about, sometimes there's a light at the end of that tunnel. And in this situation, for me, I'm gonna say Problem Child, you live to fight another day. Because, yeah, it's not the greatest movie, but then again, I've seen some movies that were made in Illinois that make this movie look like Citizen Kane. And even back in the day, Citizen Kane wasn't considered a great movie. Now it's considered a masterpiece, to some. But I digress. Well, we hope you enjoyed this quick review on Problem Child. If you've seen this movie and you agree with what I've said, you can leave a thumbs up. And if you don't agree, there's a comment section below. Let me know about some of the things in the movie that you didn't care for. I like to learn more about how people feel about movies, because as I've said before, I've spent quite a number of years in front of this camera talking about movies I like and movies I don't like. Sometimes it's nice to hear somebody else's opinion, and that way we can have a fun conversation just to figure out how we can bond as a community on things that we can eventually find common ground on. Because that's what this is all about, right? It should be. Other than that, make sure you share on social media, push that little red button, and ring the bell for instant notifications. Until then, I'm Wildman West, and we will see you again for Worst State of Movies. Take care. It's